What's up, guys? I'm going to tell you today about my thoughts on inflation. There's a lot of stuff going on. You might be panicking. Inflation's going crazy right now. I don't want you to panic about this, so I want to tell you exactly how you can actually even make money from inflation. So first of all, let me tell you what inflation is. Let me give you an idea of how this works. So think of it this way. It's basically the dollar becoming less valuable. So the money, currency, whatever you're using, but in this case, in the US dollars, right, it's becoming less valuable. That's because there's more of it in circulation. So anytime there's more of something, then it becomes less scarce and it becomes less valuable. So a good way to think of this is, let's say that you've got a Big Mac and a Big Mac costs $1. Inflation comes along and you get 100% inflation, let's say, over some period of time. That means that Big Mac now costs $2. Simply put, the value of your dollar got cut in half. The Big Mac didn't change. Sometimes when you see prices go up, you're like, oh, is it because the demand is higher, this is a more valuable thing, or this thing is being priced more? No. It's just because the value of the dollar is less. So that's kind of what's happening a little bit with gas prices, although there's some other constraints as well, but a lot of it's just inflation. House prices, a lot of it's just inflation. A lot of these things are happening because the value of the dollar is less. So it's more widely available when you give out a lot of money, when a lot of money goes into circulation. And there's all kinds of complicated reasons we're not going to get into as to why inflation exists right now and what's happened from the fiscal policies that have happened that have caused that. But the important thing to understand is what inflation is. Inflation is essentially the dollar becoming worth less over time. And so you need more dollars to buy the same value. Now, what this means practically for you is it means if you have cash in the bank, it's worth less. Like if you have $100,000 in the bank, let's say, then if you have inflation, it could reduce that so that it's effectively like you have $75,000 in the bank. So you just lost a bunch of money. It's a way of sort of creating a tax that is distributed across everyone, taxing everyone at once. When you print money, you essentially make it so you're taxing people in a way. It's a really weird concept, but it's true. So your money in the bank is worth less. Your salary is less. It's less valuable. So if you had a really good salary, that salary is not quite as good anymore unless it's gone up. It has to go up because now it's like you're getting paid less. And basically anything that you're getting, any kind of income that's on some kind of contract or something like that, or money that you're holding on to, cash is worth less than it was. Now, it also means, by the converse, that the money you owe is less. Let's say you bought a house and you've got this big mortgage on the house. That money that you owe it's less because those payments relative are less. So again, let's say that, I know, you had $1 Big Mac, and let's say that your mortgage payment was $1,000. So 1,000 Big Macs, let's say, is what the value of your mortgage payment is. If you have inflation and Big Macs are now $2, then it's sort of like your mortgage payment just went down to 500 Big Macs. That's what it basically came down to, because with that same amount of money, $1,000, you can buy 500 Big Macs. So that's a good way of looking at it. I know that's a little bit confusing, but if you really think about this, like, okay, I bought something valuable and now what's changed is how it's priced, but the value of that thing is still the same, right? So it's the same thing here. Any kind of contract you have, if you have a loan, if you have a monthly payment on any kind of subscription services, all of those things, you just got a discount on them because of inflation. So again, it's a little bit of a hard concept to wrap your mind around, but if you think about this, what you can understand is that any income that you're getting, inflation hurts that, or money that you're holding on to, it hurts that. But any income that you owe, like debt that you owe, and money that's going out that you're paying on a contract, that is good. Inflation is good in that respect because you're now effectively paying less. Now, here's the thing. Let's talk about how you can actually make money from inflation. Because if you understand this, if you've been following me so far, the thing is, don't panic, you can actually make money. The way to take advantage of this is real estate. And let me explain to you why that this works. Let's say, we're gonna use some real simple examples here. Let's say that you buy a house for $100,000. I know it's hard to buy a house for $100,000. We're just using a fictitious example here just to make the numbers round. So you put 10% down on that house. And I know it's hard to put 10% down on the house, but you can do that. There are definitely programs where you can put even less than that, but let's just say 10% down. So you borrow $90,000 from the bank and you get a 90% loan on that property. Now, let's say inflation happens, and let's say that it's crazy inflation and prices go up basically our Big Mac scenario. It's 100% inflation. So now what happens is, just based on inflation, not any kind of appreciation on the property, that property is now worth $200,000 because it's priced in dollars. Okay, that's it. Because we said our Big Mac that cost $1 and now costs $2. Same thing. A house that costs $100,000 now costs $200,000. Now stick with me here. So what does that mean has happened? If you rent out the property, the rent's going to go up twice as much as well. But let's just look at just the bare facts of this. Okay, so if that property is now worth $200,000, you put $10,000 into that. Now, if you were to sell that property, what would happen is you would get $190,000, but you only put $10,000 into that. Now, what does that mean? You're going to get $190,000, but we can sort of cut that in half because remember, we had inflation, so the value of that money is worth less. So it's worth half as much. So we take $190,000 and we cut that in half. And what do you have now? Simple math here. 190,000 divided by 2 is $95,000. So your $10,000 that you invested is now effectively worth $95,000. Or you could say that you made a $95,000 profit on your $10,000 investment. That's a huge profit. The only thing that's happened is inflation. We're not talking about appreciation. We're just talking about the simple economics, the simple math. I know this is really hard to follow, but if you get this, you're going to become rich. I promise you, because inflation is going to benefit you. This is why real estate is such an important thing. And if you don't understand this, that's fine. We'll break this down a little bit more in some resource I'm going to give you in a second here. But what I want you to understand is that by using leverage, by acquiring debt, by buying real estate, I know this is, trust me, this is not a scam. This is not something fishy at all. This is just straight mathematics. By buying the real estate and having debt, by borrowing money, what ends up happening is that because all of the property value increases based on inflation, but the debt that you owe doesn't increase, even though the initial investment that you put in essentially becomes worth less money, or rather it sticks with the inflation, that is protected by it, you get the benefit of the inflation working on the bank's money, which would normally hurt the bank, but it helps you. So again, simple scenario, $100,000 house, you put $10,000 down into it, you owe $90,000 on that house. If that house goes up to $200,000 because of inflation, because the value of the dollar got cut in half, you sell that house, you get $190,000. Now you got to pay back the $90,000 to the bank that you owe, but then you have $100,000 left over, and that $100,000 left over, it's only worth really $50,000 because it's worth half as much, but you still made $50,000 from your $10,000. Does that make sense? So that's why I'm not worried about inflation. Real estate is a huge hedge against inflation, especially if you're leveraged. You're going to make money from inflation. So when you have a lot of real estate and you have a lot of debt, you make a lot of money. Inflation is great. It's good. When you have money in the bank, not so good. So everyone who's doing the smart thing, who's saving money, who's got money in the bank, you guys are screwed. Inflation is hurting you. It's true. But everyone who's a business owner and a real estate investor, they are loving inflation. Some of them don't realize how much they should be loving it, but I'm telling you now. With all this, I know this is kind of complicated. If you want to learn how to do this, if you want to learn how to buy real estate, if you want to learn how to invest, how to create financial freedom, how to make money from inflation, how to do all these things, how to build a business, I have a few slots open. I created my Wealth That Never Runs Dry program a couple months ago. It's in beta, but I've been opening up a few slots here and there to get more people in as I'm testing this out. And this program covers how to become financially free. It is literally step by step how to build financial freedom, from the calculations to how to buy the real estate, to how to build a business, and how to actually run the numbers and know when you're financially free to build passive income. That's what it all covers. I have a few slots left over. If you want to get in here, email me, john@bulldogmindset.com, F inflation in the subject line, F inflation. I will send you an application. Like I said, there's only a few slots I'm going to open up at a time, and that's how you can get in. So email me, john@bulldogmindset.com, F inflation is the subject line. Now, if you just want to watch another video and you just want to see how I predicted inflation, watch this video next. I've got a video here that is from March 2021. It's called 100% Proof Massive Inflation is Coming. And that's where I predicted it. I have it right on record there. So 100% proof massive inflation is coming. Watch that video if you want to see how I talked about this was going to happen. And it did happen.